It's finally here. Don't miss our first look review of the new Genestealer Cult Codex for Warhammer 40k. Spiky bits.
Make sure you stay in the trenches by becoming a supporter over on Patreon and also scoring yourself some free miniature swag in the process. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Check out our site, spikybits.com, for all the hot hobby tutorials, news, rumors on all your favorite hobby topics. And head on over to thelongwar.net. That's the home of the battle reports for exclusive content, early access videos, and more. Become a veteran of the Long War today.
What's up, followers of the Four-Armed Emperor? I'm Baer, and today we are taking our first look at the brand new Genestealer Cult Codex for Warhammer 40k. Of course, this has been eagerly anticipated for like literally the last 20 years. Because this thing has, Genestealer Cults have had rules. I guess I made a mistake on my flashback video. They actually had rules in a White Dwarf in the 80s that I didn't even know about because I wasn't even buying White Dwarfs in the 80s. I started buying them in the 90s and such. But and then they had rules in their very first Tyranny Codex for 2nd edition in 1993. But now they have their own book, they have their own set of rules, they can ally with Guard, they can ally with Tyranids, they got all sorts of stuff. Games Workshop's coming in fresh with another hardcover rules supplement. Now this is only 104 pages, about 5 pages less than a normal codex normally is, but that's okay. There's still plenty. I mean, this codex definitely seems to be very robust and definitely stands on its feet. Now, you know, it's the standard rim and swalland, like amazing art here. You know, it's all embossed and everything with the UV coat. It's just a very good looking product from Games Workshop. Again, printed in China for this go around. You know, it's got a really good leaflet image overview. And then of course it gets into the amazing graphics that we would come to expect from Games Workshop, from all the, you know, little clip art and things to just basically all the pictures we've seen over the past couple of weeks on the internet, you know, of all the battles and all the great artwork. I mean, this thing is just filled with all sorts of amazing material. And then of course you've got all the different color schemes and, you know, roles of battle for all of the Genestealer cults. Because remember, it's not just Tyranids, it's like, you know, you got Genestealers. These are basically the frontline soldiers ushering in the devouring of a whole world, but they don't even know it, which is kind of hilarious. So if you take a look at the contents, basically you've got, you know, your normal layout, you've got all of the intro, your bestiary talking about the different basic units, you know, all their fluff and everything in the background to really get you all hyped into playing the army. And then you've got, of course, the big showcase section where they show you all of the models all painted up in various battle scenes and really get those hobby juices going. Then it gets into the actual rules section where we see they've got their own detachment, the Genestealer Insurrection Detachment. They have over 15 new data sheets. I mean, sure, some of them are taken out of the Guard book, but you know, they got their Genestealer flair, and no big deal there, right? And then it gets into 8 different formations that you can also feel that, of course, are part of the Decurion or the detachment itself. And of course, in the appendix, you got all the special rules, all the rule summaries, all the weapon summaries, you know, from melee to shooting weapon, ranged weapons. You got all of the psychic powers, the new official war gear for them, you know, the relics. You've got the tactical objectives, which I guess are going away because supposedly this is the last set of data cards that are being produced. So that's the big rumor out there. Don't know. 50-50 on all of that. Okay, so moving forward, we're going to take a look at some of the rules. Now remember, this is more of a kind of first look review at the book. We don't break into the rules as much as you would see because we actually, you know, we take this seriously. We try to break it down just like a college course, just like you guys would, to try to learn the rules, learn how they apply towards everything else out there in 40k and how to actually play the army itself. Then we come back and we do a tips and tactics video next week, usually on the Wednesday, where we're basically, all right, this is how to play, you know, and we kind of go over all the rules and such. So this is just kind of like a brief overview. We're going to show you some stuff to take a look at to get those hobby juices going. And then of course, you know, the internet's going to go nuts talking about everything over the weekend and everything, and everybody's going to come out with their ideas, and you know, we're going to collate it all, we're going to get it all together and present it back to you and show you our tips and tactics on how to play this army. Now, first off, here's the detachment. It's pretty simplistic once you look at it. There is no scoring unit bonus, unfortunately, but you do get a lot of cool bonuses that coincide with the overall army special rules, which is the cult, the ambush rule, and then the fade into the shadows rule, which is pretty cool too. So basically, your stuff can appear and reappear and move around and disappear and come out of reserves. Now remember, this is a very key rule to remember when you're looking at all these rules, because a lot of people are already getting it twisted online. When you arrive from reserves, you're never allowed to assault unless it specifically says you can assault. And that doesn't matter if you're coming out from the board edge, if you're just placing the models on the table like you're allowed to do in this book, or if you're basically outflanking. You're never allowed to assault unless it specifically tells you. So keep that in mind, because there is a result on the cult ambush table that lets you, on a 6, lets you assault. But it's a 1 in 6 chance. So just, this is a very important thing to keep in mind. Now, there's all sorts of mechanics and how to bounce your stuff around and get models back even in your unit. So if you lose your special weapons, from shooting to close combat, you can always get that stuff back. It's great. Now, as far as the compulsories go, you only need 1 core and you only need 1 auxiliary, which are right here, which coincide with all the formations in the book. And the core also coincides with the formations in the book. You can throw in commands if you want, but they're not compulsory, but you can't take them because they can be a little powerful, I feel like, especially this one right here, 1 Patriarch and 1 unit of Genestealers. You might roll and get Flesh Hooks, and Flesh Hooks is dope because you get to assault going through combat, because that gives you assault grenades, which they don't normally get. And then here's the Cult War Gear list. You'll also notice that in the vehicles, you're not allowed to take the cache of demolition charges. It's only on the Goliath. So there is that entry in the book, but you don't always get to take it, which is really interesting. That you can't run around with a Chimera and be like throwing demo charges out of it. And then you get into the HQ section, stuff we've seen already, the Patriarch, the Magus, and then it gets into the troop section, these aren't the troops, these are the elites. Now, lots of elite choices, lots of troop choices, and of course, they're going to put in a lot of stuff here ported over from Guard. You've got your Chimeras, you've got your Sentinels, both varieties, normal Sentinels, armored Sentinels, you got your Leman Russ. And the Leman Russ, you can't take like stuff like the Exterminator, but you can take, or the Executioner, but you can take the normal variants that you would be able to take, like the Exterminator, the Vanquisher, and the Battle. You automatically get the Battle Cannon one. And then, of course, the new Goliath Rock Grinder, and then you've got the Truck, which is also another variant of it as well. So 2 different great dedicated transports for a lot of the troops in here that functioned various ways, because this basically has the death roll from the orcs, the old way it used to work, the good way. So this is basically what this does, and it's pretty cool, and we're just starting to see the rules for it, which has really got me stoked on these guys. If I had hobby time in my day, I would probably start an army of these guys just because they look that cool. And then it gets into some of the formations. We've seen a lot of these, like I said, there's 8 of them. Some are good, some are bad, some are just kind of, hey, whatever, if I got points left over, I'll take it. But there is an overarching kind of theme / strategy to this army, and a lot of it is really just starting to fall into place now that I personally have access to the whole book, and I'm sure the book, even if you don't buy it, I'm sure you'll see a lot of it out there on the internet. So we're really starting to get an idea of how this all works. Now, as far as war gear goes, there's a lot, there's still a lot of stuff in here. You've got all of the war gear options. Of course, you've got a warlord traits, the Cult Ambush rule that we were talking about, the Return to the Shadows rule, where basically you get to come any way you arrive from reserves. You can instead, if you have units with a special rule that infiltrate or arrive from reserve or ongoing reserves, can choose to roll on the table, which is right over here. And then also those same units, if they have Return to the Shadows special rule, they basically can disappear, go back into ongoing reserves, and then reappear again at the top of your next turn. Now, obviously, you want to be careful because you don't want to throw all your stuff in reserve and then all your stuff on the table dies because you lose the game, right? But conversely, that really gives you a lot of scoring opportunities towards the end of the game. Starting, on turn 4, you disappear your stuff. Turn 5, it appears. You're poised pretty good, hopefully. And then there's bonuses and things like that. Like you can get models back, like 1d6 model to any units that appear. There's some different mechanics on how you kind of do it and how you mix and match your synergies here. The Warlord traits table I actually haven't looked at, so I really can't comment on it. But of course, it's right there. You can take a look at it right now. And then in the back of the book, of course, you've got the Broodmine discipline and your tactical objectives. Now, there's some good ones here, and there's some bad ones here. We don't really like, we talked about it on the show, on the Long War, maledictions that are basically combat, but things that are blessings for yourself. Mind control seems pretty solid for Warp Charge 2. Actually, something I wanted to check here. I'm not exactly sure. Well, Warp Charge 3, anytime you can get 20 models just out of the blue, just poof here on the table with these Neophyte hybrids, I think that's a pretty solid mechanic. Now, granted, you only have 2 different Psychers in here, and they're only going to be able to have so much. So a lot of times, I think if you're going Psychic heavy, you're probably going to want to be mix and matching these guys with some other Psychic bad boys out there, like even perhaps the Astra Militarum, because they have access to some cheap Psychers. Of course, you could do it with Tyranids if you want to take flying Hive Tyrants. But that's not really the flavor of the army, because by the time the Tyranids move in, the planet should be pretty much taken over. The final battle's about to happen, I feel like. But it is what it is, you know. The game is the game, and it doesn't always make sense. And common sense does not apply to the game of 40k. I think we can all agree on that, right? So there's some ways to make this work. This is a good chart overall. I think about 50% of the powers are competitive, so that's always nice to see instead of just complete garbage, right? So overall, I think this book, just glancing at it, I'm going to give this book a solid B right off the bat. Just kind of saying, hey, these are the mechanics and these are kind of how they work. They will obviously make very solid allies, but I think this book can also stand on its four limbs as well in the current 40k metaverse. Boom, boom, boom. So that's it for this one. Quick, super quick one here, because we still have to unbox all of the Genestealer releases, the new White Dwarf, the new Silver Tower. We are busy today. So thanks so much for watching this. Make sure you check out the other new release videos on this channel coming up soon, and also the tips and tactics video that will be out next week, probably on Wednesday if I had to guess.
Deleted scenes, bonus content, and all the interviews and post-game wrap-up videos can be located in the Hall of Veterans on thelongwar.net. Visit thelongwar.net today and try a week completely free with no strings attached. That's not all. TheLongWar.net is also your hobby resource for exclusive early access with an ad-free experience to all your favorite videos. Members of the Hall of Veterans gain early exclusive access to multiple hobby videos.